Today, I'm using a new deck. Kind of. I got it a little while ago, but I haven't yet used it for a video. And I'm also going to be pairing it with a crystallary. So we're going to be using the Lorenzi Tarot to find out what it is you need to know, and the crystallary to find out what crystal might be able to help with that energy. Let's start with the tarot. Okay, what is it that we need to know today? What do we need to be made aware of? Wow, I wanted to have a little sneaky look at the bottom and the Ten of Cups. How is this going to play into the reading? I'm actually going to keep that one there. Something's definitely going on here. The first card that I want to talk about is this one, the Hierophant. Now this depiction of the Hierophant is quite interesting, and it's leading me to talk about learning from past mistakes. And I get that from the arrow in the heart here, hinting that we've gone through some kind of pain that taught us a lot, and that knowledge may need to be embraced more, because we did learn a valuable lesson here, but I feel like that lesson might be being forgotten. That experience was detrimental to us. It taught us so much. Why are we not carrying that forward? Because also coming out is the Four of Swords. What I'm drawn to with the Four of Swords is the little people hanging out of these doves. These doves holding down the brain and the heart, the two main centers that we have that tell us how we feel, but also what we think. Those two centers are valuable. And the person hanging from that dove, how far are you willing to go out of your comfort zone? Back to that emotional fulfillment with the Ten of Cups. How far are you prepared to go for this? Because you might need to delve into that past again, to dig up what lesson was learned. What was of value during that time? What did we learn? What can we carry forward? Because I do appreciate that being outside of our comfort zone is insanely scary. It sends the brain into a tiz, overthinking everything. The heart suddenly becomes scared and fearful, not wanting to put itself on the line out of fear of getting hurt. But that comfort zone is there to be tested. Take that knowledge from what we learned in the past. I feel like there's something incredibly valuable in that. Because the only way that we can get to this emotional fulfillment is if we learn from our mistakes. If we can look back to something painful and see an opportunity. If we can look back and see something that hurt and see it as a lesson, as a chance for growth. That is where the power is. Now I know this image is used quite a lot on this deck, but I'm also just clocked that little piggy up there that says stay human. And I guess that's kind of fitting considering we're talking about the battle between our head and our heart. We're not this machine that gets everything right 24/7. That might be why you're being asked to revisit this. But also that reminder to stay human, to admit our flaws, to note when we could move forward in a better direction. And I'm kind of curious, what does stay human mean to you? I do feel like there is one more in here that's needed. Of course, temperance. So that lesson that we're trying to learn, that thing that we need to remember, focus on that balance. The balance between right and wrong, the balance between head and heart. They can work together. I know most of the time they normally battle each other, but listen to each side, see their points, and I'm sure by having this temperance, we can figure out a good way forward. Because sometimes we do have to go backwards in order to go forwards again. A backward step isn't a bad thing. Learning that lesson isn't a bad thing. But the other thing with the balance is that comfort zone. A comfort zone can be an incredibly safe space to rest in. But also if we spend too long in that comfort zone, we become stagnant. We get comfortable. And in order to keep progressing, we have to push ourselves outside of their comfort zone. But that is another thing that temperance is talking to me about. Know when to go back into your comfort zone. Know when to recharge. Know when to push outside of. Because it's only by doing that we feel emotionally fulfilled. We feel like we're actually progressing in a way that we're happy with. Don't allow that comfort zone to keep you stagnant. Allow yourself to learn that lesson and move forward. trusting that you have that wisdom inside of you and you'll use it if you need to. Okay, now I'm curious what crystal's going to be thrown out of here. Okay, what crystal can help us with this situation, please? Well, they didn't have to be so aggressive. Of course that one's come out. This is selenite. And the one thing that this is good for, as you can see by the image, is that balance. So selenite is a very good matched crystal with what it is that you're currently moving through. It can really help to ground you, to gain that sense of clarity, and above all, balance. It can help things feel less heavy, less one-sided. So if you can, grab yourself a little piece of selenite, connect with it, allow that to help you, ask it to help you. And of course, we've also got amethyst, probably one of my favorite crystals. This says expand into wisdom. And I can see how amethyst is definitely needed for what we're moving through. The ability to revisit that past, to gain that kind of clarity and use it on figuring out how to move forward. The other thing that I want to note with the selenite card is the sacred center. Finding that space that we were talking about where we feel comfortable. To look back into past and see how much we progressed. Finding that sacred center within us where we are ultimately at peace. We know who we are and we know that the past cannot hurt us. So we can look back into it and find those lessons. So please do grab yourself a piece of selenite and a piece of amethyst. Keep them with you and ask them to help you through this stage. Allow yourself to expand without any kind of fear of you being held back. And allow yourself to reach that sacred center. Because ultimately, this is what we're aiming for. That 10 of Cups. It's that emotional fulfillment. It's that feeling of being emotionally secure. And you do deserve that. I really hope this reading resonated with you guys. Thank you so much for joining me here today. It was an absolute pleasure to read for you, and I'd love to know what you think down in the comments. I really hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Right, nearly there. Love you, bye.